A reminder for every college football fan out there is going to be a group of 5 team in the college football playoff this year and next year and every year after that, really, because, well, we have auto bids and that's the way this works. I'm not a fan of it personally, but I am a fan at some level of the G5 having access to the playoff. It's fun. But the idea of the G5 having their own playoff and national championship, I think that's a pretty good idea. That's not the world we live in right now. So Boise State and Tulane are the teams you look at as maybe the top 2 Group 5 teams who could win their conference and get into the college football playoff this year as one of the 5 highest ranked conference champions. Boise State in the Mountain West, Tulane over in the American, which doesn't have SMU anymore, so that path is at least a little bit easier since SMU has been really good over the last couple of years under Rhett Lashlee and they go into the ACC. Maybe they make some noise. I think they'll be solid. That's kind of my gut feeling on SMU and the ACC. But Boise State, one of the favorites in the Mountain West, the defending champs, of course, after a rather tumultuous season in which their head coach was relieved of his duties. The interim comes in, and then he wins a few games in a row, Mountain West Championship, and they go, well, we got to hire this guy now. Obviously, he was the defensive coordinator under the previous guy. So that's just the way things roll. But I like Boise State. I like Tulane. Now, Tulane's got a new head coach. Boise State's got a new head coach. But I like both hires a lot. Coach Summerall down at Tulane, he's done a lot of winning at Troy over the last several years and can pick up where Willie Fritz left off. He's brought in a couple notable transfers. Ty Thompson at quarterback, former 5-star. Mario Williams, a former USC and Oklahoma wideout. He's down at Tulane now. Yeah, did you know that? Well, now you certainly do. But these are not the only schools that in the group of 5 ranks should be thought of as playoff contenders. It's not a 2-team race. It's not even a 2-conference race. The Mountain West and the American are the 2 best leagues, but you can't overlook the Sun Belt. And heck, last year, Liberty would have been in the college football playoff because they were ranked ahead of SMU. They got to play Oregon in the Fiesta Bowl, and they promptly got shellacked over there, but still, they were the team that was in. Someone is going to have one of these spots. They'll be in over a 9-3 SEC team or a 10-2 ACC or a 10-2 Big 12, and someone's not going to be happy about it. And I'm just going to do segments like these so that I can tell you in advance, don't say I didn't warn you, because I am indeed warning you here. But one team I want to look at here is James Madison. So James Madison lost their head coach this offseason. He went to go take the head job at Indiana in the coaching carousel. They bring in a guy named Bob Chesney, who you probably haven't heard of before this segment, hence the purpose for it. He spent the last 3 years at the FCS level. He was coaching at Holy Cross, and let me tell you, this guy knows how to coach ball. That's all there is to it. 29 wins at Holy Cross over the last 3 seasons. Here's the most impressive part. Because FCS schedules and records, they can get a little janky because of the caliber of opponents you're playing, number of times you play an FBS school. Against conference foes, against those who, in theory, have got at least something resembling equal footing and financial backing and everything like that and resources, 17-1, Bob Chesney. Going into his first year with James Madison, who, by the way, were in a Cinderella underdog story last year in college football. They had College Game Day get there. James Madison's big-time athletic department going from the FCS to FBS level. They're the poster child for what a successful FCS to FBS jump can look like. They just won a March Madness game. They were in a bowl game last year. They were undefeated. They were ranked in the AP, but they couldn't be ranked in the playoff, and it was a whole debacle and whatnot. But here's where James Madison is going to let you know whether or not they can be a serious playoff contender. Because if you win the Sun Belt with schools like Coastal Carolina in there, yeah, you can absolutely be one of the highest ranked or the highest ranked Group of 5 conference champion. But the measuring stick will come on September 21st. James Madison travels to North Carolina to take on a revamped Mac Brown team. And look, I'm not particularly high on the Tar Heels this year. That said, a road game against a Power 4 school in the ACC, who we were talking about earlier, that's going to be the benchmark. And we'll talk about a benchmark game for another team to keep in mind in just a moment. But James Madison, I would not sleep on the Dukes. They're very, very serious about supporting their athletic department over there across the board, and the results have been really good. We'll see if Bob Chesney is the right hire. He's been really, really good. I expect him to succeed. Let's talk about Memphis, because SMU, aforementioned on this segment, is in the ACC now, not the AAC, which clears the path. Now, UTSA could be in the mix here, but I wanted to talk about Memphis specifically. How many games do you think Memphis football, which has appeared in a New Year's Six game in this era, by the way, how many games do you think they won last year? Just off the top of your head, what do you think their record was? It was 10-3. Best year yet under head coach Ryan Silverfield. And that's the sort of thing where you go, he's been there for several years, and they suddenly popped. Is he figuring something out? Well, in the talent acquisition department, he's certainly not shy about utilizing the transfer portal. And hey, I'm here for it. For a group of 5 school, transfer portal swings both ways. It's often discussed or talked about in the sense of, well, these group of 5 schools, they're just going to lose their best players. You're going to have guys that never would have given your school a consideration, might not even have heard of it, except that they're not finding the opportunities they wanted to elsewhere, and suddenly they come to your school. Top 45 portal class, the Memphis Tigers, one of the highest in all group of 5. 25 players total, including a pickup, who I think is being underrated by 24/7 Sports, in Elijah Herring, linebacker from Tennessee, led the Vols in tackles last year. I'd expect him to have a big year for the Tigers this season, but you bring in 25 guys a year after you went 10-3? No SMU to deal with? Look, I think this is pretty close to a 3-horse race in the American Conference. Not that there aren't other teams that are good, that are capable, but Tulane, Jeff Traylor at UTSA, head coach who was kind of tied to the Texas A&M job, but was not ultimately selected. Of course, Mike Elko, the hire, their former defensive coordinator. Tulane, UTSA has been a really steady program, and Memphis. Those would be the teams I'd look for in the American Conference to come out as a conference champion. And look, where they're going to be ranked at the end of the year, hard to know. But if you come out of it with 1 or 2 losses, you can very easily be inside the top 25 and be the highest ranked group of 5 team. So I would absolutely not sleep on Memphis. I mentioned earlier benchmark games for a group of 5 school. Let's talk about Fresno State, because Fresno State, again, just kind of quietly, ho-hum, what do you know? They had another 9-win season. And is it everything that Fresno State wanted last year? Probably not, because Fresno State's got very high standards, and they have achieved very good things whilst playing in the Mountain West this year. And I expect them to be a contender, because as long as you've got Jeff Tedford in charge over there in Fresno, number one, they're probably going to be able to score some points. And number two, they're probably going to be a pretty good football team. Their benchmark game comes early in the year. They play at Michigan. This is a big noon kickoff game. That's going to have a lot of eyeballs. Defending national champions in Ann Arbor early in the season. No, I don't think Fresno State walks into the big house and walks out with a win. Though if you'd predicted that about Appalachian State circa 2007, you would have been called crazy, ignorant, hating, and whatnot, and then you would have been right, oddly enough. However, I don't foresee that happening here. I think the Bulldogs probably struggle against Michigan's defense, which will once again be one of the best in college football. Won't be what it was last year. Will still be very good. Might have the best defensive line still in the Big Ten, maybe in the country. It is very, very good, and that'll be tough for Fresno State to deal with. But they don't need to win that game to set their expectations for the rest of the year. They need to show that they can play at a high level for 4 quarters and just hang around, like put up a good fight. A moral victory is absolutely in play there for Fresno State. So James Madison, Memphis, Fresno State, group of 5 teams that cannot be ignored, in addition to Boise State and Tulane, who would be my top 2 picks as the most likely teams to emerge out of the group of 5 and make the college football playoff this year. Drop your thoughts in the YouTube comments. Let me know what you think. Speaking of the group of 5, UCF was there like an hour ago, and they're just not there anymore. They have left that life behind. That's coming up next.